So today we're continuing with our look at disorders in the DSM and alternatives that we've got. And we're now up to ADHD, which is described as involves persistent patterns of inattention and or hyperactive impulsive behavior that interfere with functioning or development. Symptoms include distractibility, forgetfulness, restlessness, excessive talking, impulsivity, and difficulty sustaining focus. ADHD begins in childhood but can continue into adulthood and is associated with academic, occupational, and social challenges. What do you think about that?
Yeah, this one I would call it kind of orientation sickness myself. Orientation sickness. Yeah, I would call it. It's like an orientation sickness. They're all a result, as Danny said, of coming into being. So just being here alone in a body, see, there's going to be problems. But this one is probably, I would say it's closer to an orientation sickness. So it's not a kind of a coping strategy. It might be something wrong with the hardware and the person just trying to function within a faulty hardware. So maybe that there's nothing much you can do about that one, ADHD. I'm not sure if it's biochemical maybe. So it might be a glitch with the hardware and the person's just simply expressing behaviors that would be tantamount to orientation sickness, which maybe cannot be solved. I'm not sure if it's a kind of a, functional problem as opposed to it might not be a functional, it could be a genetic problem. They've come in with some glitch in the system.
Yeah. So there's various other types of ADHD. I'm going to go into those. And there's Tourette's disorder. And there's various under different things like provisional tic disorder.
Again, stress, I think.
Yeah.
See, a response to stress again. Response to stress, which is understandable, you see. Sensitive person, and that's what's happened. It's a consequence of stress, just a symptom of deep stress. So the person has come through the vocal cords now. So that's the flaw. It's come through there, the stress. Like a pressure cooker. And that's the outlet. The outlet is to get rid of the stress. That's the ticking. Whatever. You see, that's where the stress is coming through.
Yeah. And then we're going to move to the next category before we go into our own disorders. Category 2, which is schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders. So you've got schizotypal personality disorder, which is a personality disorder marked by pervasive social and interpersonal deficits, discomfort with close relationships, and cognitive or perceptual distortions such as odd beliefs, magical thinking, or unusual sensory experiences. People may appear as eccentric, anxious, or socially withdrawn, and their speech or appearance may seem peculiar. While not fully psychotic, they exhibit traits that resemble a milder version of schizophrenia, placing them on the same clinical spectrum.
Yeah, again, a response to stress again. See, this is what this culture and the very, fact of being it produces. This is what it is. They're all coping strategies. They're all ways to kind of reach homeostasis. And that's what the organism is attempting to do. It's trying to reach homeostasis. And whether it's genetic or it's functional, biochemical, whether it's actually hardware or it's a functional problem, it's the same thing. It's an organism's attempt to reach homeostasis and peace and, a nice composed state. And it's very difficult, see, to do so. So, of course, as you're growing, if you've had trauma and stress, which everybody will have done, this is the ways that it can manifest the problem. The trauma, it manifests these ways, all different ways. So that's what it all generally is in my mind. It's all just a response to trauma, all of it, and an attempt to reach homeostasis, balance.
Yeah, and then we've got delusional disorder, which is characterized by the presence of one or more persistent delusions lasting at least 1 month without the full symptomatic picture of schizophrenia. Aside from the delusions, which may be persecutory, grandiose, jealous, erotomanic, somatic, or mixed functioning, is relatively intact, and behavior outside the delusional theme is generally not bizarre. Hallucinations, if present, are mild and related to the delusional content. And I would say that I think that parents suffer from, I think, what I would call delusional disorder, because anybody who thinks they can be a parent, in my opinion, is completely deluded. And they have no idea what they're talking about. But if you ask most people are deluded enough to think that they're going to be good parents. Also, religious people, I find, are completely delusional because they believe that the creator of the universe wants them to reproduce. How crazy is that?
Yeah, of course. It's a mixture of those narcissism. So you believe that you've got powers that you haven't actually got. You believe that you'll be a very, an excellent parent. It's all delusory, the whole thing, all of it. So that's what it is. As we said originally, the waking up to all of this is the standing down of these things, which would be that you'd never dream of bringing a child into existence. You wouldn't dream of being able to raise them properly. It's ridiculous. The whole thought pattern is ridiculous. It's abnormal. The whole thought pattern, especially when you're already in existence, as we've said before. That is the parenting that needs to be done on yourself. That is the very parenting. If there is any parenting at all, it's you, isn't it? Surely the child that's in existence, the one that's been brought into existence, is suffering. That's what all these people are. All these conditions are just lists of people that have been brought into existence and they've got problems. And there's no one who can solve them, really. The parent can't solve them, so they bring them to the medic. The medic doesn't really know how to solve them because the medic hasn't solved them in themselves. So they're assuming, again, delusion. They're assuming they'll be able to help the person. But there's no way they can help them, you see. The help is to just tell people not to do it, not to cause the problem in the first place, obviously. That's the ultimate radical help, is to tell people to stop the whole thing, the whole delusion of thinking that they, of wanting children. That is the delusion. The very desire to have a child is the delusion. That's the delusion. That's the root delusion. That one. That put an end to everything, that one. Once you've solved that one, then the problems are all solved. All of these that you're reading are all solved.
Yeah. And we're going to go over to some of our own, or in this case, you came up with these, some conditions that you would put in your own DSM. So take us through some of these.
You read them, yeah.
So we've got, okay, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
So reverse malingering is pretending to be well when sick, colloquially known as stiff upper lip syndrome. This condition is common in capitalist competitive societies. 99% of the human population are doing this, saving the healthcare system trillions.
Yeah, exactly. That says it all, I think, that one. Yeah, these are more comedic. These are ones I've come up with,
right,
really, just to highlight the fact that the whole thing needs flipping. The whole system needs flipping. Malingering is not a problem at all. It's an attempt to gain freedom from a system of enslavement.
What is malingering?
Just pretending to be sick.
Right.
When you're well, to avoid work. So going to the doctor to get a sick note when you can't bear to go to a stinking job that you hate.
Right.
You just can't take it anymore. So the only recourse you've got is to go to the doctor and pretend to be sick. So that's considered to be criminal. You see, you're lying.
Yeah.
When actually the whole condition is criminal.
Right.
You're trying to escape from a criminal kind of incarceration. So.
Then you've got reverse narcissism, aka Oliver Twist syndrome, self-harm, hate, abuse, berating yourself and putting yourself down. So an extremely enervated or non-existent sense of entitlement, chronic morbid absence of self-appreciation, recognition, respect, an extremely debilitating potential personality, stunting disease, especially prevalent in lower working class, precariat, communities. 99% of humanity are self-harmers, lacking self-love, admiration or confidence. Transform yourself, beta, into a self-booster.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's what's going on with people. It's not their fault, you see. It's a reverse kind of narcissism. So they've got no sense of self at all. In fact, they're beating themselves up all the time. The inner narrative is one of negativity. I'm a piece of shit. I am not worthy. You see, Oliver Twist syndrome. Can I have more, sir? More porridge, please. When you're entitled to as much as you need to be healthy. So that's what's going on, I think, with all of it, you see. The fact that you have to subjugate yourself to a boss in order to get some food, shelter, clothing, the basics. You see, that's all passing now with AI anyway. We're seeing, again, in a couple of years, you'll see it will all collapse. They won't be able to, there'll be no jobs, you see, so they're going to have to pay people. Only subsistence again, you see, still not the proper amount that people deserve, but it'll be a subsistence payment and the whole thing will collapse. And you see that work was never necessary anyway at all. It's just getting to this stage where it's forced upon the controllers to grant people freedom. It's being forced now because they can't possibly, you see, there's no jobs. The AI is wiping everything out. So we've come to an age where it will be universal basic income is the only way out, I think, for them. They reluctantly have to pay it. So until it gets to the stage where they're probably, they'll have to force some kind of sterilization on the populace or culling of some kind, because obviously the numbers don't work as they are at the moment, if you look at them.
Okay, the next one we've got coming up is heterophobia, which I've spoken about sometimes in my talks at Speaker's Corner. Heterophobia is the rational fear of heterosexuals based on their irrational propensity to reproduce without forethought or proper planning and preparation. Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's the root one, really. See, just the it's the fact that it's considered normal to reproduce is crazy. It's just the absolute craziness in my mind. The fact that it's considered normal to reproduce on this planet and bring people into existence here is crazy. That's the root craziness. That's the most radical form of insanity, that one. So hence the heterophobia. It's the fear of people who do that, which is normal. It's normal to be heterophobic. It's absolutely normal and rational once considered the whole situation.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this before, but even the people who intend to have children, myself included, do not plan it at all. They do not properly plan it or plan it at all. There are very, very few people who use their logical human brain to actually think it through from beginning to end.
All of it, the finances involved, every aspect of it, all of the risks and dangers that the child's going to be exposed to by bringing them into existence, all the whole thing, through to old age, decrepitude and death. You see, none of that is considered properly. When you do consider it, it's ridiculous. Hence the heterophobia, you see. You'll be, it's just scary. The people that present themselves, as, pro-natalists, they're quite scary, really. It's quite normal to be scared of them. It's crazy, the whole thing. It's fear-inducing, the whole thing.
Then we got blind obedience disorder. We covered this and similar things to this, the last one. A very common, potentially dangerous mental health condition. Sufferers are often found in high concentration in lower working class authoritarian structures and are often inflicted in early childhood by domineering parents and teachers. The patient loses all sense of his or her own autonomy and does what he is ordered to do, regardless of whether it's right or ethical or logical. This pernicious condition can be successfully treated with intense self-loving therapy.
Yeah, same thing again. Absence of self-love is what leads to this kind of Stockholm, syndrome. Love of abuse. It's abuse, really, when you look at it. So you're being forced to go to do something all day long, a job, that you hate, and I think the statistics are there to show that most people dislike their jobs. They're not happy there at all. So of course, all this ill health and dis-ease is a product, is a result of all of this kind of wage slavery that people are forced into, incarceration. It's crazy when considered, absolutely insane that people have to do things all day long that they hate. Of course, there's going to be a physical effect, which is disease, which is all of this. It starts very early on. A lot of children hated going to school. Most of us probably listening, most of you listening probably hated the experience of going to school. But yet we were forced to do so. And it's been the same right through college, uni, work, just to get a job, job. Wage slavery. Hopefully this AI thing will remove that, as I said. So we'll see. But there'll be another form of slavery again. You'll have to jump through hoops to get your tokens. or your universal basic income, or whatever it is they decide we're deserving of.
Yeah, next one is biophilia. Biophilia, a chronic, lifelong, irrational love for or of life, stroke materiality. Biophiliacs typically suffer from extreme necrophobia, thought to be a symptom of DNA parasite infection. Take us through that.
Yeah, that's right. It's similar. It's like Stockholm. It's the same as Stockholm syndrome. It's a falling in love with the condition you're in, which is a physical one, material one, life itself. You're in it, you're immersed in it, so you can't, it's very difficult to see through it. So automatically there's a love for the thing that you're in, just like exactly like Stockholm syndrome, same thing. And then there's a revulsion and a fear of death, of exiting this situation that comes along with it. And that's all driven by DNA. You see, obviously it's got its own intent. It's using you, hijacking you, as Richard Hawkins said, with the selfish gene thing. It's got its own intention, and it's to keep you alive and keep you in the situation, in the prison, so to speak, in the incarceration. So that's what it is. And the waking up to that is the condition that I've listed there. When you wake up, you fall out of love with life and physical existence, and then the death becomes liberation. So it's the fear of death is gone. You see it completely. It just flips the script completely. It's a paradigm shift. And you see now death as the liberation, as the way out of the prison, as the way out, emancipation from incarceration.
Yeah, we've got then now elephant man syndrome, identity dysmorphia, gross self-deception, gross reality distortion. When the portal of perception is purged, you will see yourself as who you really are, which is sovereign.
Yeah, that one, I think it's, I can't remember the guy who worked on that. He was a surgeon, a plastic surgeon, and he said, self-image is very important. But there's, people who have had facial distortions and things wrong with them, once he's repaired that, it vastly increased self-esteem once the person, but there's a different form, which is the psychological form, where you're seeing yourself as ugly when you're not. See, that's the thing that I'm talking about there. A lot of masses of people see themselves as unworthy and ugly and not deserving of love or attention or, respect or whatever. So that's what that one's dealing with.
You've got here supersensitivity stress syndrome, aka Earth allergy. Hi doctor, I'm a supersensitive. I have a planet Earth allergy. Supersensitivity stress syndrome. I'm suffering from PNSD. It's a chronic, incurable condition, postnatal stress disorder.
Yeah, we mentioned that one. That's a humorous one. Yeah, just if you're really sensitive, I mean, ultra sensitive, super sensitive. That's the suggestion there. Then you'd be repulsed by the very fact of being in body. The whole thing would be, you'd have an allergy. That's why I said that's a humorous thing. You'd go to the doctor and they say, what's wrong with you? And you say, you've got an allergy to being here. You've got an earth allergy. Everything about the experience is spiking you. And there are people in that state, for sure. As you turn the sensitivity dial up, things become excruciating here. The whole thing, you'd be aware of everything. All the suffering of every insect, the suffering. Imagine you were that sensitive that you were tuned into all the pain and suffering that exists here. It would be repulsive. It would be intolerable, you see. So that's what I'm saying, earth allergy. Anyone in their right state of mind will have this allergy. They will feel this, you see. So this is what it is. That's what I'm saying. Super sensitivity.
Lovely. And please do put your comments in this comment section and we will have a look at them and respond to them if we feel like it. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening.